coming. We have an amazing panel. First, I'm going to introduce Michael, who's going to get us started. Michael Mara, my partner from Me Group. Michael, take over.
Thank you, Jim. Is this working? Thank you guys all for coming out. We really appreciate you guys coming in the cold weather to our event. We have 5 amazing panelists, so we're excited to hear all their insights on the startup scene and everything. If you don't know me, my name is, like Jimmy said, Michael Mara. I am the founder of Me Group, and then we also have Entra, which is our app for entrepreneurs coming out soon to help founders and entrepreneurs of all types get connected and find co-founders, developers, investors, all of this a lot easier and faster. So we have a lot of people that made this all possible, and we're going to introduce all of them. So Sama, if you want to come up and share your company.
Thanks, Michael. Thank you so much for coming, everyone. Just a quick intro on myself. I'm the co-founder of an app called Down to Dash. It's an app to make quality activity buddies. Like if you want to go ice skating tomorrow, you can find someone to go ice skating with, or if you want to play soccer and you need 2 more players, you can find people to play soccer with. Just anything that you love, you can find people to do it with. We also have a lot of events like this one that you can discover on the app. It's called Down to Dash, one word. It's a free app. And I'm also looking for technical people to work with. So if you're a technical person, chat with me, or if you want to be involved with any events that we host, even fun ones. Yeah. But yeah, that's it.
Cool. And Addy from Started Up NYC.
Hi guys, first of all, thank you so much for coming and showing up, and thank you to all the speakers for being here and sharing advice about the VC funding routes and stuff like that, which is really important. Real quick, I'm the co-founder of Startup, and we run an agency-focused accelerator, which is kind of different, but I can't really explain it in 2 minutes. And apart from that, we run a marketing and dev shop, and we focus on startups that have at least finished a pre-seed round and they're on their way to seed, or from seed to Series A. So definitely check us out or meet me later on during networking after the speakers, and exchange a card if you have an interesting idea or a startup that needs marketing, development, or acceleration. All right, thank you. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Addy. Ali, you want to come up? You good?
No,
yeah, come on.
let's start the panel.
All right. Well, we have a few more people. So.
Yay. Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Noga. I'm an actress, a writer, a producer. I wrote a show about entrepreneurs, foreigners in New York. Next Stop, a comedy of misconnections, obviously. And one of my biggest struggles in being an entrepreneur, an actor, an individual, was to find a space to work from. Of course, at the time, I thought producing is a piece of cake, and obviously I was convinced that I'm Shakespeare. But I was struggling doing the marketing and the sales and the business plan and basically creating a whole new entrepreneurial theatrical experience. Fast forward 5 years to tonight. I'm here after 2 years of running shows, and the piece is on the way to become an off-Broadway production. And I'm wearing the hat of general management of Meeting Place, which is a startup of business meeting rooms on demand by the hour, no membership. We just opened in New York a few weeks ago. We're opening 2 other locations in the next couple of months, and I got this incredible opportunity to let you guys know about it and invite you to use our sites, which are suitable for any big companies, individuals, entrepreneurs, offsites, orientations, interviews, anything and everything you will need a business meeting room for. And just to give you like an image to attach to what I'm speaking about, my best way to define this would be the Apple Store of business meeting rooms. So I'll leave you with that image and invite you to get in contact and come meet in place online or in site. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you, Noga. And then we have Tatiana from Hotkey.
Thank you, Michael. Hi, everyone. I'll start with a strange question. How many of you guys actually use Microsoft Excel? Like 99% of the room use it. And the reason I'm asking, and I want to tell you that actually there are 750 million users worldwide using Microsoft Excel. It's basically the third largest country in the world, right after China or India. So there's more opportunities that you can think. For example, in Excel, in the US, excuse me, there is $8 billion spent annually on Excel learning. So, and there are two solutions basically. First is live training, and I was an Excel live trainer myself, traveling around the country and around the world, providing the trainings at Goldman Sachs, Credit Suisse, BCG, McKinsey, Harvard, Stanford, and over and over again, I saw the struggle people had with Excel. After the training, they came to me, they're like, that's such a great stuff, all these shortcuts will save me like hours, months, days of my life. But how can I remember? It was just half a day training. How can I remember all that? So I came up with the idea that gamifies Excel learning solution. You can play and try at the same time and with your own pace, and compared to video, you don't have to stop the video, try, in Excel, start the video again. You learn by trying, and that's what we accomplish with our game. There's also badges and competition chart and all fun stuff that comes with the game. That's our startup. We're right there. Christina is here videotaping me. She came from Boston to join us. Thank you so much. And if you're interested to learn more about our startup, just come visit us, meet us. Our next products coming is gamification of Python, gamification of Photoshop, and so on and so forth. Thank you.
Thank you, Tatiana. And up next we have Keith from Shoestring Videos.
I'm going to start off with a question too. How many of you have considered in the marketing approaches that you've been looking at using video to promote yourselves? How many? Okay, yeah, and if you don't have your hand up, you definitely should be, because it is hands down proven to be one of the best marketing tools you can invest in. So my company, Shoestring Videos, we don't just produce the video for you and throw it up on your site. We also produce creative content that we're going to be pushing out through marketing campaigns that we will work with your team to develop. So we're going to make sure that you get an ROI on those videos, and it's not just a film it and forget it approach. We do everything from animated videos, animated explainers that can help people really understand quickly what the product is, product or services that you're selling, to full-on live action commercials. And we do this at a price that's much better than a lot of the production companies that you're going to find in New York City. So we have a table over there. You can check out some of the work that we've done and learn more about a process and grab a card from me. Thanks so much.
All right, wonderful. So let's give another hand to everyone who helped make this possible. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce Charlie, who is going to be our moderator for tonight. He is the host of the Culture podcast, where he interviews founders, entrepreneurs, and I'll just let Charlie take it from here and introduce our speakers.
Great, great. First of all, let's give it up for Michael and Jimmy, right? Right? Again, I'm Charlie Stevens, moderator tonight. I do have a podcast. It's called Culture, where I interview founders, entrepreneurs, and innovators on their journey, how it's created and evolved culture. I've had Trevor, Andrew, and Iqram on the show, as well as Michael, so you can check it out at charlienyc.com. We're really trying to help startups like yourself, businesses grow and hype them up. They hype them up to the podcast, and I help them grow through office space. So if you need office space, two-person office from a WeWork to a full floor in this building, I'm your guy. Okay? So without further ado, let's get this going, and let's start doing a little introductions. First, we have Trevor Sumner, CEO, Perch Interactive, leading interactive retail marketing technology. He's also an advisor and founder of Local Vox. Trevor, welcome.
Thank you.
All right. We have Andrew Cohen, next down the line, CEO and founder of Brainscape, a venture-backed mobile and web education platform helping millions study with smart flashcards. I've used it, I like it, big fan of it. All right, there we go. Jasmine Shell, CEO, co-founder 529, Workplace Engagement Solutions. Welcome, Jasmine. And Kison Patel, founder, CEO of Day One, also founder of Deal Room, project management software that's innovating the M&A process. Welcome, Kison. And lastly, Iqram, Magdon-Ismail. Iqram formerly co-founded Venmo. He exited from there, and now he is the founder of ENCE, which is that little pink logo up top, voice audio platform. It's like a social audio Twitter of sorts, and he's starting that up right now. So he also has a band, Iqram and the Immigrants Groove, so you might want to go see him live. He's pretty good. But today we're going to break it down. Intros, there you go. We're going to talk about building the company. We're going to talk about venture capital, how you raise some money. So let's just start it off and talk about, I mean, I'll give it to you, Trevor, but how did you go about starting to build your company and build your team throughout this process?
Build the company, build the team, or the capital?
Build the team, and we're going to get to the capital.
It's hard. It's hard because startups are war. Really, they are war. They are 80-hour week, and the person that you're next to working with, you have to enjoy it. If there's like friction there, it's like a bad marriage. It's just everything's unenjoyable, right? So finding the right team member starts with like, what do you actually really need? I think a lot of people just aren't really thoughtful about what they need. And early on, you probably don't even know. So like getting generalists are okay, but later on, as you kind of build your company, you really need to understand what exactly are the qualities of the people that you're looking for, that you like work well and gel with. Like, I can't stand micromanaging people. If you tell me you're going to go do something and don't do it, forget about it. Like, I can't. I like it. There's too much for me to do your job or follow up on your job. But those type of things, you have to figure out what your non-negotiables are and find people who are passionate about what you do, because again, you're going to underpay them. They're going to be in the trenches. They're going to make lots of sacrifices, and that's the hard part. So, finding people with that passion or the right passion for you and being able to sell that passion, I think, is a real key part of it, because especially in those early stages, you're building this mission, right? And if people are just there for the job, startups are a shitty job, right? Underpaid, hours are terrible, you don't have the resources you need, nothing's defined, there's no employee handbook, there's no HR person, like just every process that, must be really nice to work at Microsoft, and I did once for a summer internship. We have none of that at Perch, and we had none of that at Localbox for a long, long time. You have to be willing to see those things and say, I want to build that, Here's an empty thing in this company, I want to be a part of it, I want to be part of fixing it, and building it, and make it my own. And to me, finding people like that, it's really few and far between. And that to me is like that and coachability, right? It doesn't matter what level of talent you have right now, it's your ability to take feedback and incorporate some of the, I've been somewhat around the block, to incorporate feedback and to constantly strive to get better. Those are the things that I really look for in a hire, in somebody, who's really not striving just to further their company, but further themselves. Right? And to be able to take on and grow as your company grows. So those are some things that I really look for, and I just, AngelList, Indeed, you throw it all out there, you ask your friends, you're always, building your people is probably the hardest job and the most important job, so you have to be doing it 24/7.
Thank you. Andrew?
I'm going to echo what Trevor said about passion. If you're not starting the company because it's a problem that you want to solve yourself, if you're just starting a company because you want to start a business, and we were just talking about this earlier, it's probably not going to shine through in the way that you talk to people and the way that you sell your early partners and co-founders. I actually started Brainscape myself when I was living in Panama, working with the World Bank, and had to get really good at Spanish. So I created it in a Microsoft Excel macro, believe it or not, because that's my old world and the software I knew. And it wasn't until I went to get my master's degree, pivoted my career to education technology, made that the center of my degree, that I started really meeting people in the industry and being able to sell the vision and refine that. And if I hadn't gone through that and really built something that I first and foremost just wanted for myself, I don't think I especially me, I was a nobody in the startup world at the time, right? I hadn't worked in tech. Without that passion, there's no way I would have been able to attract good people. A second thing, and also I think you touched on this, was really understanding what you want and what you need at each stage. And one of the mistakes I made was thinking, okay, like I've got a good prototype, I've got a great development shop, who's building out most of it. What I really need is like great business and marketing and salespeople. And I was probably a little early on a lot of those things. And with the right advisory, I probably would have been able to pick the right mix of who are the technical co-founders, if I could even find them, or at least more technical advisors, and a lot more customer development, and really focusing on the people that know how to talk to customers, know how to take customer feedback and incorporate it into product design or maybe marketing messaging and iterating is going to be just 100 times more valuable than any executive skill set, no matter how awesome the name. And I had a couple of really awesome names from really great companies in my space that immediately got obsessed with my idea and said, I'm in, and I want to be your co-founder, I want to work with you on this. And instead of saying, we're a little early, this is awesome that you're so passionate, I want you as an advisor, I want you on my board, whatever it was, I brought the wrong people in at the wrong times. And so really, really know what you want and when. And that should probably be the #1 piece of advice that you request from all your advisors. Should this person be full-time? Should they be part-time? Should they be an advisor? Should I outsource this? And just getting that mix right early, because that's what starts your team DNA.
Yeah. I'll double on that, which is one of the big mistakes I see is people are like, oh, you're an executive at this well-established company in the space, and like you should come on board. Like that's so. There's so many people who talk a lot, but don't get stuff done. Like because we had a big project and we moved into new offices, like there was nobody to help us like clean the lights, the fluorescent lights in my new office. Like I had to remove every single fluorescent light, clean and vacuum the lights at the top. There's nobody else to do it. Like it's not glorious. If you don't have somebody who's gonna like build Excel sheets and like get in there and wash dishes, like I wash dishes, like client comes and the dishes, the sink's dirty, like you need people who are willing to get their hands dirty. And one of the biggest things I find is people who talk a great game and have great ideas, but then are used to having a whole team of people to go execute for them. There's no team of people. It's just you.
Jasmine?
Hey y'all, thanks for having me tonight. So in terms of how I found my team, I kind of want to talk about that personal experience. So there's this really great quote from Steve Jobs, and he basically says how the greatest person in the world is, or the most effective person in the world is the storyteller. And I think a lot as a founder or as a visionary, you have to be able to tell a good story. Because like they kind of alluded to, these people are going to be sacrificing a lot. You're not going to be paying them as much. They are going to be working like super long hours. So that was one thing I was able to do, was kind of like bring my team into the vision that I had for my company. And then also it was like the first business I had, it failed. It was miserable, hot mess. But that's how I found my team. They helped me actually in that business in different ways, from advising from a technical standpoint to, one even, it was like an events company. One DJ'd tons of parties for it, and another one really helped me on like the event management side. And that was the first business I had. It didn't go too hot. But I saw like the dedication of these people who were helping me out on something I was trying. I wasn't paying them, and they always were there. So when I pivoted into the B2B space, especially around workplace engagement, I was like, wow, and they have the skill sets I need for this company. So I was able to kind of sell them on that story and that vision, and that's how they came on board.
Kison.
I think I'm wired up.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay? Okay. The odds are always against you. And when it comes to building a team, it's figuring out how you're going to turn those odds in your favor. So you're going to build a candidate pool, and you only got 10.
Kison, I think you got to turn on the mic, the switch.
I did turn it on.
Is it on? If it doesn't work, you just use the mic.
Hello, hello.
There you go.
Try this.
All right.
What was that? Odds are against you. So essentially, when I pick up or hire a role, I'm trying to make the candidacy pool as competitive as possible. So it's not just putting an ad up on LinkedIn. I'll take a chance and try Indeed or some of the other sites as well, or especially like devs, find the niche ones. If you've got a Python base, so I'll start looking on the Python gig sites and things like that. Most importantly, I think a lot of people don't do is passive recruiting. So I'm constantly networking. I recently, this past year, was all about building our marketing function. I reached out to probably 2,000 people on LinkedIn, all the VP of sales, you name the company, Oracle, Salesforce, Glassdoors, and I just connected with them. Look, I'm building a marketing function. I need to hire a marketing leader. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Give me some advice. And people were pretty open to doing that. And those conversations have led to, hey, you should talk to so-and-so. They're looking and they're good. So just going beyond that, the odds are going to be against you with the little people in that. The good people are going to go run over to the big companies and live off of that. But you'll find the ones that just are fed up with it and want to do something different or blaze their own path forward. Those are the ones you want to find. But like I said, I just turn the odds in your favor. Try to get the biggest candidacy pool you possibly can. Highly recommend getting a Sales Navigator account and just mine the crap out of it and just reach out to people, connect with them, tell them what you're doing, ask them for a call. People are pretty open to giving advice, and I would recommend just starting at that point.
I mean, in every conversation, say I'm hiring this, this, and this, like literally every single one, right? Because you're constantly hiring, you're constantly looking, and I think building a pipeline of like, who you're going to hire 6 months from now, start building those relationships now.
Iqram, what do you got down there?
Yeah, hello. Aside from what everyone else said, I have this thing that I do. It's called the birthday cake process. And just to make it kind of fun, you know those candles that you put on a birthday cake that you can blow out, but they come back to life? And has anyone managed to blow that candle out first try? Raise your hand if you have. Okay, hired right there. And we actually work together. But is just one in the room has blown a candle off a birthday cake once? Okay, cool. Wow. All right. Well, so I use this analogy because there's something so nice about lighting up. So, by the way, I don't know how large corporations view hiring people, but when you're a startup, one of the qualities that kind of I look for is that person that's going to come in with energy, like when the candle is first lit, the fire is flaming, everyone's staring at the birthday cake. If you're turning 23, you've got 23 candles on there, and you're like ready to blow it out. But I look for that person that is willing to let that flame be blown out and fight back to come back to life. So for Celeste over here was able to blow that candle out. That's one quality. But then there's another quality. So she can just blow things out like candles. And then if you apply that to that sounds crazy. But if you
Correct.
But if you apply that to like being like you have to be voracious sometimes in marketing, for example. But then there's that person that will lose the flame but come back to life, and it's that type of person that you need when you're a startup. Because at what we did at Venmo, for example, we probably ran about 200 experiments that all failed, and you have to be able to come back to life after they all fail, and you have to be able to fight to have that flame. You have to be that candle on the birthday cake that doesn't go out. So those are I just try to put a picture in your head of the type of person it takes to join a team early in order to really make the candle taste good.
So you guys you've already built the company. You're working it up. You started you've created the culture probably internally, and that's why it's building up. And you probably have a good product. Now we're talking about raising capital. I think there's a lot of founders and startups in here that are looking for a little bit of advice on where to go. Where do I start? Is it like an angel, a VC, private equity firm? Where do I start, and kind of what is that process? I'll leave it to you, Jasmine, to start this one off.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for us, we're raising our seed round right now. We're opening it up last month. Just got our next commit, and we're at $1 million committed in our round, which we're really excited about. But one thing I see that a lot of founders do when they go about trying to pitch VCs is they think, oh, I only need to talk to the VC firms, and they sometimes overlook the angels. Angels can be really great and can help you get to where you're trying to get to in your round a lot faster. Sometimes VCs, they'll waste your time. You're like, oh, when are you trying to close your round? You're like, oh, January. And then they'll try to push it as far as they can because they want to see what traction you're going to make from the first time you talk to them to the next time. Whereas like angels, sometimes they can be a little bit more about betting on you. And another thing that a lot of founders, I think, sometimes underestimate is just like non-dilutive capital, right? So being pitch competitions, grants. I just got $40,000 last week from a pitch competition. It was non-dilutive. So also look at those opportunities, and quick accelerator cohort right here. There was a group, a team out of our accelerator. They've gotten like almost $5 million in non-dilutive capital. It's like insane. So don't overlook some of those other opportunities that could really help you get to where you're trying to get in your race.
Who's on that? Pick or choose. Kison, you want to take it?
I agree with all of that. I echo the same thing I mentioned earlier of beating the odds. So look for these non-traditional avenues to meet investors. I think everybody knows the cliche thing about getting an introduction to the investors is like a very important thing, or ask for advice and get funding. But the accountants and the attorneys are actually really good people to network with. You can go to the Bay Area and network with the startup attorneys out there, and like they're just used to it. That's part of their offering, being a good attorney. In fact, don't hire an attorney if they're not willing to make those kind of introductions for you. So I would definitely look into that. And if you're at that point, I've seen it time after time after time where people just go out and raise that early stage money too early. I mean, if you are really at that point to look to raise money, you should have like some kind of customer advocacy group. Because a lot of times I just see it where they just haven't spent the time to validate it. But at the end of the day, how many people have you talked to, and how many people have really like backed you up on this? You've kind of gone through these solution interviews and things like that, where you're not even telling them to buy your product, they're asking you to buy it. Those are the people you want on your side, if you can build a lot of your story and go out and pitch from them. But then you can also ask them, who should I be asking money from? But again, just kind of look for those things that aren't the obvious ones, and go on with it. People.
Yeah.
I just we get 90% of our hires are LinkedIn, and I want to say right now, new business probably 30 to 40% is LinkedIn. But we sell into the Fortune 1000 corporate development people. You can't get a hold of them on email. You can't get a hold of them cold calling. For a reason, they'll answer your LinkedIn, they'll look at your profile and be like, oh, I could use that. So, yeah.
On raising money, one thing I'll say is a lot of people trace people who are mildly interested in you. People who are mildly interested will never turn into a yes, right? Sometimes people get really excited and then end up turning into a no. Nobody starts muddled and then ends up getting really excited, right? The entire process of like being a VC is figuring out the reason to say no, right? Your cost of acquisition is too high. Your target, the total addressable market's too small. You don't have the right team. They're going to have to pitch it to a bunch of people. All it takes is one naysayer. Like, I'm in the retail business, right? And brick and mortar retail. I heard retail's dead. No, right? So, like, it doesn't. If somebody gives me any feedback, like, oh, I'm not sure about retail, it's like, great, no problem. I'm done talking to you. Like, that's great. Like, I understand your position. I think you're absolutely wrong, but I'm never going to convince you, right? So focus on the people who are really excited off the bat, and don't waste your time, because you'll just never get them there, right? Like, they'll always ask, oh, tell me when you get to this point or that point, and I never, ever see that turn into a yes, ever. Even when you hit their targets that they tell you, it's like, yeah, but I don't like the space, or yada, yada, yada. So you gotta talk to a lot of people, and you gotta focus on the people who are really excited about it. That to me is really the key.
Yeah, those are really good points. I think it's also really important to know where you are in the growth process, and if angels or family offices or VCs are going to be appropriate for you. And it's so different based on what your pedigree is. Maybe like if you've been an awesome exec at another company and you have two other like really big name exec co-founders, like maybe you can come out of the gate and raise a $3 million seed round from good VCs, and maybe VC is your first bet. If you're right out of college and you've got an app and your buddy's like a developer from the dorm, like you're probably going to be going after angels. So whatever your phase is, know your right audience, and then understand what is the one thing that you want to prove with each round. Whether it's your pre-seed, your seed 2, your Series A, every round has to have a theme, and this is the bet we're making. And if this pays off, then we're going to be able to do this next thing. If you go in, you say, oh, we need money because we need engineers, and we've got a leaky funnel, and we're not sure about these markets we're going to test, and there's like 5 things. It's just not going to be that one thing that the investor goes home and tells their spouse, you know what, I can't stop thinking about this business because there's this one sentence that, like, if we give money, if they prove this, then this whole world opens. So have a theme. And then I guess the last thing, and one of the biggest challenges for earliest stage entrepreneurs is, great, you're saying pitch all these investors, but like, how do I actually get to talk to these investors, right? I went to 5 investor founder networking events, and it was 99% founders and 1 investor who's not really an investor. Like, the investors the best investors, the good investors, usually don't show up to those things. You go to like an awesome pitch night and pitch your thing, like, there's usually not going to be that. Maybe there's like the one token VC who's like the co-sponsor, who's on a panel or something, but they're typically not at those. You can't cold email them. Lawyers, like you said, network with lawyers and accountants because they are connected, but are they the absolute best intros? It's kind of their job to help founders. The absolute best intro that you can get is another CEO, ideally another CEO of a company that they've invested in, whether they were an angel or a VC. And so if I were starting again, instead of trying to bark up all the investor trees that I tried to bark up for 6 months when I really wasn't even ready, and I was trying to build relationships and whatever, and cold email, going to all these networking things, meet as many CEOs of companies in your space or of sort of skill sets that you think are going to be related. Figure out a reason to meet them, to go to coffee because you want to talk about something really specific. Tell them your idea. Let them tell you for an hour why your idea is terrible, why your thought process on investing is terrible, why the team that you're starting to hire is terrible. And in the process of building relationship with CEOs and following up with them, maybe one might become an advisor, but those are the people, once you connect on LinkedIn, that when you're ready to fundraise and you build your spreadsheet of investors and you look up one at a time, or you have an intern look up one at a time, you'll see that the people you have in common are those CEOs, and those are going to be your best warm intros. So meet as many founders as you can before the investors is, I guess, one main takeaway that I would have.
Yeah, one thing we haven't talked about is accelerators. Like, if you don't feel like I've got strong VC relationships, my rep is in the market, it's great, like, I've had one success in the startup business, so I feel much like raising money is a lot easier now. Go to an accelerator. I'm a mentor at ERA, for example, and look, the valuation might not be great for the cash that you get. Don't worry about the valuation. The networks that they bring, the people that come in and look at every single one of the startups, the programs that they do, they build that network for you. If you don't have that network, you're probably not going to be successful. It's just hard to do. It's hard to build, and you don't have time, right? The other part about this is raising money is terrible. It's the worst, right? Yeah, seriously, right? I mean, like, it's going to take 50 to 75% of your time for 3 months. What happens to your startup when you're gone for 75% of the time? All your metrics are going to tank. Every time I've left a startup, something terrible to go fundraise. Something really bad's happened. The technical team made a really big architectural mistake that cost us 6 months to a year on our roadmap. We lost a key sales hire, like we lost a key salesperson because I just wasn't there. I wasn't paying attention. That happened to me in Q1. Like, my top salesperson left because I just wasn't there. I didn't even see the signals. And then by the time I figured out what was going on, it was too late. She already accepted another job. And I was like, oh no! And I couldn't reverse it. That's just, I wasn't there. I wasn't paying attention, right? There's a real cost to fundraising. And so you just got to know that. And my recommendation is, if you have employees, is to actually tell them, hey, I'm going to be a really terrible manager or CEO for the next 3 months, and I'm sorry, but I got to go do this fundraise. I need you to be proactive with me. I need you to be patient with me as I do this, and this is why I'm doing it for the business. Because if you don't do that, they're going to be like, Trevor's no fun to be around anymore. What's up with that? For 3 months.
Yeah, 95% of the fundraising work is actually in the several weeks before your fundraising. Like, you're going to be pre-delegating as much as you can on your team. You're going to be putting certain things on autopilot. Maybe get that last hire off your plate. And then all the pre-investor research, all the coffee meetings with all those other entrepreneurs, the target spreadsheet that you built from AngelList or whatever, like all that work, the pitch deck and refining the pitch deck 100 times with your trusted advisors, like all the work happens before fundraising. And then the fundraising, sure, is distracting because 75% of your time you're in meetings, but it was all kind of pre-planned. It's just sort of the blitz that like now you go through the motions, send the emails, get the intros. So if fundraising is just sort of a thing you casually do for a while on the side for several months, it's not going to happen because you're not going to carry that sense of urgency and do it in a really efficient way.
Iqram, you've been around the block. What do you think?
Yeah, Iqram raised more than all of those probably.
You've done okay, Iqram. You got any tips for raising capital?
Actually, no. I mean, Venmo didn't raise that much money. Yeah, I think by the end of our first, at the point of our first exit, we had raised $5 million in total. And then after that, we were part of another company that took care of all of that. So nowadays, if you go to San Francisco or in some places, $5 million is like a seat check. So we probably should have raised more Venmo, but
I think you have some funny stories though. I mean, you're telling me about you met with Amex, you met with all these people, you're recording them. I mean, can you talk about that process there?
Yeah, in my experience, it's kind of similar to what they were saying over there, where there's an instinct you have about the types of people you meet, and I think you will know pretty quickly when someone's actually interested in going to, cross the finish line with the actual check. And then the rest is like, sometimes I found myself almost wasting time just going through the motions of things because I already have that gut telling me like, well, this person's really not interested, but I'm going to do what they say. So I think what I'm trying to learn as I grow older is how to be more efficient with that. It's okay for not. It's definitely okay for everyone not to be interested in investing in your company. And if you can find that person that really believes in what you're doing sooner, that really helps. And then I guess the other tip that I try to follow is if you can find an investor that is willing to, cut you a $50,000 check or whatever it takes to get started, and then is also willing to give you a $300,000 check, when you need to, hire another engineer or something, and then has also got the capability of giving you a $1 million check when you want to bring more people on board, and then by the time you're ready to raise a $50 million check, that person is right there with you. That's the type of investor that, I look for because they can carry you from day one all the way to, the last stage until you go public or make that final exit. And a lot of funds do this now because they realize that it's a competitive advantage. Getting in early into a startup makes it easier for them to cut that $50 million check when your company's doing really well. So
That's a double-edged sword. You see like Andreessen Horowitz and other who are kind of traditional Series A or later stage, and they're starting to get into the seed stage. The problem is they're doing this with like 10 startups, and they're only investing in the follow-on in some of them. And so it's a really big signaling risk if they invest early and then don't invest later. So, if you're really excited and you think they're going to go, great, but otherwise it's going to be, everyone's going to be like, well, why didn't they follow on, right? So to your point, you need investors who will follow on, and then also, who have a network to protect their investment because they got 50K in, they got 100K in. If you need to raise $500,000 to keep the business open, they're not just going to let their 100K, just waste away. They're going to invite you and tell you people like, we have a guy on our board, Howard Meitner, he's the ex-CEO of Sephora. My God.
I'm not a fan of magical realism, so I think there's an expression that says, I'd rather be lucky in life than good at something. And so my question is about the intertwine of that within startups that I always ask every founder I ever meet, as well as people I've hired in the past, is if you'd be willing to share with us a moment, I think, in your struggle as a startup where you were just lucky. It was just pure luck that managed to carry you through a moment where you either weren't equipped enough to handle that or didn't have what it took to go through it.
Good example here.
I got one from the first consulting company I did. I worked for a company, 21 years old. I had a gig cold calling, trying to do biz dev for a tiny little business brokerage shop. They wanted India to find deals or buyers for convenience stores and Subway franchises. And I did good. So I got ambitious that I remember I had this like $10,000 saved up. And I'm walking around the used car lot, you know, trying to buy like a new car or something. And I ended up saying, you know what, fuck this. I'm going to start my own practice. I know what these guys are doing wrong. They don't have a real good strategy in place. I'm just going to find one asset class, get really, really focused on it and sell it. And I went out and I leased this office. And I remember leasing this office because the realtor didn't know what to do with me. He's like, I got this 21-year-old, 22, I just turned 22. He wants to lease an office, but he doesn't want to sign a 5-year lease. He doesn't want to sign a 3 or a 1-year lease. He wants to go month to month with us. And I remember I ended up talking to the owner. The guy owns like $3 billion of property because he had no idea what to do with me. He's like, look, just sign a 1-year lease. I won't personally guarantee it. And I went out. I did it. I bought the cheapest furniture, and I didn't have the working capital to survive. I mean, I'm going to this brink of failure point where I'm just fucked because it takes a ramp-up time. And I mean, I'm borrowing money. I'm starting to charge up the credit cards. And I'm heading down that dark path. And you start fluttering. You know, you're kind of having those late nights up. You're sort of getting a little anxious, anxiety. And, you know, I was very fortunate. My dad helped me. My dad's like an old school strict guy where he really wants every one of his kids to learn the hard way, everything. I thought he just had some kind of drive off of watching us suffer. But, you know, he's kind of helped out with a little bit just to kind of get us by. But he's really strict about it. Like, you're paying me. He wrote a bank note. It was like a high interest note. I remember I did have to pay that back. But luckily I caught a break. We ended up getting a mandate to sell a bunch of bankrupt gas stations basically in Indiana. So I always had this deep appreciation for Indiana because these assets saved my ass. It was a quick liquidation sale for the bank, and that got the whole business started and it flourished from there. So we had a nice 9-year run from that point. But yeah, that was something close to hitting the shit.
So my last company was called Localvox. It was a local marketing company. If you're familiar with like HubSpot, it was like a HubSpot for local. So all about driving online people to in-store sales. And we had an investor, and we raised a Series A from that investor. And part of it was like dependent on hitting a couple milestones. So, and that investor turns out, you know, investors don't necessarily care about you. They care about how to make the most amount of money in their investment. And it turns out that that company that invested in us actually wanted us to go bankrupt so that they could buy it for pennies on the dollar and merge it with a company that they also had invested in. This became clear when we hit our milestones, and then they all of a sudden said they're not going to pay us the rest of the money. So all of a sudden we're set scrambling. We had 3 months runway, and now we have 3 weeks. We raised money at a bad valuation, and with warrants and all this complicated stuff. And then we ended up doing a partnership with a company called First Data. They're the one that do about 40% of credit card processing in the US, Clover stations, all that kind of stuff. And they put $1 million in as a friend from college. This was like, we are running out of money. Our lead investor, who's responsible for making sure we're okay, is trying to kill us. Like, and it's just like, I mean, it was a brutal time. And somehow this deal came through, and First Data invested $1 million in us. And as a result of that, instead of getting bought for pennies on the dollar, we ended up being able to get acquired for a considerable sum. But that's like a perfect storm of things. And it's just constant. All this stuff is luck, right? Like, you're gonna face so many unseen challenges, and these random, that because they're unseen, you're not prepared for them. And the fact that you get out of them is both determination and a will to succeed, but also finding those things, that perfect storm of conditions that happens to help you. And you know, there's a great deal of luck, and it's shown that people who think that they're lucky actually, you know, perform better because, you know, they're appreciative of every little thing that happens. So I would say, you know, hiring my VP of sales, who probably made Localvox work, was super lucky. And just everybody I got a chance to work with, like, and there's so much to it. That's probably the most significant one, where it was life or death. And that really decided the outcome, and it just happened to have a college friend at First Data Ventures, and one thing led to another, and just saved us. And we went from, you know, going bankrupt to a successful exit in 4 months.
I have a similar kind of near-death experience story.
Thank you, Will Nance.
Right at the end of 2015, Brainscape, we had been raising kind of successive, like angel and seed, and then like, post-seed. We raised about $3 million. And we were going out for our Series A, and we had, a lot of user traction. And back in the day, it was a lot easier to raise rounds just based on users, and we'll monetize them later. In the last couple of years, it's gotten a little bit more realistic revenue-wise. But kind of right as I'm talking to some of our lead VCs, some things changed with Apple's search algorithm, and like 2 or 3 just terrible things happened all at once. So suddenly user growth is plummeting. We didn't really have revenue. And all my Series A deals fell apart. I had like less than a month of cash and 14 employees and really no revenue. So yeah, we went from 14 people to just me. And I had one other engineer who was like keeping the lights on, but he's like, should I look for other work and everything? And he was on the West Coast. He was our one remote employee. And I had like this long pep talk with him, and it was probably terrible. But for some reason, he just was like, I'm going to talk to my wife about this. He's a religious guy. He went to church. He prayed, and he came back, and he's like, let's do this. Let's turn this thing around. He had actually done this before for another startup that almost went out of business and then had a huge exit to HTC. And we, for the next couple months, started monetizing. We put a subscription model on it. We made enough money to pay him, what he was fully worth, because he was able to take the pay cut, and then I myself was able to get a little bit of a salary again. And then we're able to hire his friend, and then we're able to hire another person, and before you know it, a couple years later, we're quite profitable, well into 7 figures. Haven't needed to raise any more money, and if we do, it's gonna be a big round, or we'll find a home at some point. But it was all like the one decision that saved me. It was luck. It was that just this one guy who I'd only hired like 3 months before that, who could have easily gotten a job making 300 something K as a senior engineer. This guy had 20 years experience leading dev teams at Intuit, HP, Monster, and just for whatever reason he believed in what we were doing, and I'm incredibly grateful.
Iqram?
I was thinking you were going to close the doors the week before you met with.
Yeah, it seems like that's a common theme. Everyone has it. Running out of cash, something, something has to happen fast. We had a similar situation with Venmo. We were spending an inordinate amount of money acquiring users, and so we were spending about $35 million a year, and Venmo wasn't making any money. So that's an interesting business. I haven't seen many like that. So it was unusual for our investors because in order to further develop and fund Venmo, it would have taken hundreds of millions of dollars. For someone like me who hires people based on birthday cakes. So, I'm just a regular guy. Fortunately we happened to meet someone in our portfolio, and he was like, I kind of want to add a consumer payment service to our backend, which the company was called Braintree, and within a week, he bought us. He bought Venmo. Yeah, and basically I view it as Braintree saved Venmo's life. And the thing is, going back to what I was saying earlier about how that gut feeling can be a very huge driver, as soon as I heard him, pick up the phone, I was like, this is the guy. I could just feel it. I mean, I'm sure we've all felt that before. And every other opportunity we were exploring was just basically like walking into a situation that you knew. If you've been in a meeting or a room with someone and you're just like, and they're like, I eat with my hands, you eat with a fork and knife. It's kind of, and sometimes, we swap. I eat with a fork and knife, they eat with hands, but sometimes it's just, you just gotta feel it out. And that's what happened with Venmo. And going back to the luck, the challenge for me is like, everyone, hopefully everyone's lucky. That's my hope. And I think, one way to describe it is luck. Another way to describe it is like processing everything around you and being aware of your surroundings. Because if I look back at my whole life, even probably from when I was born, I'm from Zimbabwe, I lived in Africa for the first 14 years of my life, and then I moved here, and all of this sort of thing, all these sorts of things happened. And if I look back, I can always somehow trace some move I made that helped me, you know, find a moment of luck. So, for example, my mom moved, and I moved here when I was 14, and I happened to go to college. And then one of my roommate was the person that I started Venmo with. So, yeah, one way to look at that is luck, but my mom made a decision for me. So, I think it's important to try and understand and almost reverse engineer the things that are working. And you know, like for example, I'm working on ants right now, and I'm constantly looking at data to try and understand what causes something to tick. And then once you figure it out, you know, you have that information. Luck is one part of it.
That was amazing. Does anyone have anything else to add?
Yeah, sure.
Jasmine, I know that you're not going to mess it up.
Yeah, so I think the last thing I'll say just about 5Sign's journey. So before we kind of pivoted into this like B2B purely SaaS product, was doing a lot around events and partnerships and vendors. We were trying to build what was like the class pass for employee experience. And just got rejected by like every VC. So from Chicago, right? Chicago's a lot more conservative of an investment culture. Got rejected by every VC, every accelerator. No one would touch us with a 10-foot pole. It was really sad. Hurt my confidence, but you know, kind of like that candle, right? Just kept popping back. It was like, can't stop me, right? It just kept coming back. And I remember it was like one of the final rejections we had got before it finally clicked. And they asked like, well, are you guys like a software or are you not a software? And I was just thinking about what we were doing in a lot of our customer discovery interviews, and all of our potential customers had asked us about their own internal events and being able to manage and organize those better. So they didn't want access to other experiences. They just wanted to figure out how can we create what we're doing and measure and organize it in a more efficient way. So I was like, oh yeah, we're totally a software. We weren't, and we got. I think they saw through that and rejected us. But what was great was when we had applied for the accelerator that actually made us move out to New York. That was the whole message that we went with, and we were able to really. We finally saw it was like the light bulb came on, and from there we were able to build out our V1. We were able to acquire customers like public companies and really great startups. We were able to raise funding. So it was like nothing forever, but it was like that rejection and that question that finally like made it click. So sometimes luck can seem like a misfortune, but that was actually a really great thing because that rejection led us kind of to our current success.
Well, I got one more for y'all. Now that you're inspiring me. It's kind of like a candle. I keep coming back. But the last tip. Now, listen, I would say we don't apply it tonight because otherwise we'll be here all night, all of us. But I found that being the last to leave can always. I don't know if we all follow that, we'd be here. But
I use that for hiring engineers. So I used to go to like the Python meetup groups.
Yeah.
You find where their after party is.
Yeah, you always.
Be the last one to leave, and you'll find the best guys to hire.
I found that. I mean, the guy that's willing to get hammered with you until 4 in the morning is probably the one you want to work with.
The ones that are looking right there.
But yeah, be the last to leave. We should just all be the last to leave tonight. We should just all start a company.
No, this is great stuff. So we're gonna wrap up. We have another like 20 minutes to network, and that's a huge theme of tonight. Like, meet the other people here, get people's business cards, but more importantly, follow up with them.